Week 4 kickoff is just a few hours away at this point, and you are looking to set your fantasy football lineup. In today's video, I'm going to help you do exactly that, breaking down my top 40 running back rankings and tiers for week number 4 of the 2025 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, please make sure that if you are new to the channel, that you hit that subscribe button down below if you do end up enjoying. So without further ado, let's get into my top 40 running back rankings and tiers for week number 4 of the 2025 fantasy football season. We begin with the must-start running back ones tier with Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, James Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, Omarion Hampton, as well as Derrick Henry. At number 1, we got Christian McCaffrey. Now, on paper, this isn't the best matchup for a running back up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey, so he's going to be a top 5 running back in my rankings every single week, regardless of the matchup. I'm not going to worry at all. This man has 2 games this season with 10 plus targets, and he actually leads the league in targets, and he's a running back. So Christian McCaffrey is, like I said, a must start every week, regardless of how healthy Brock Purdy is. You are going to be seeing a ton of Christian McCaffrey all game long. Top 6 running back in 3 straight games. Must start every single week. At number 2, we got Christian McCaffrey going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Running back 7 in week 1, running back 13 in week 2 in PPR, and the running back 30 last week. Ultimately, I am not going to panic after one down game. Saquon Barkley is a guy that has a 5-star palatial estate inside of the end zone. The Philadelphia Eagles are one of the most effective rushing offenses in the National Football League, so you're going to be feeling really good about Saquon Barkley game in and game out, and that is the exact case here up against the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. At number 3, we got James Cook of the Buffalo Bills going up against the New Orleans Saints. 3 straight games inside of the top 8. He took my Dolphins and gave them a swirl down the toilet. He absolutely slam dunked on us, Giannis Antetokounmpo style. Last week, he ran for 108 yards on 19 carries, as well as 3 targets, 3 receptions, and 10 yards and 1 total touchdown. 4 touchdowns through 3 games of the season. The Saints defense is straight up Swiss cheese, and I expect James Cook to take big advantage of that. At number 4, we got Jonathan Taylor going up against the LA Rams in Los Angeles. Now, regardless of the matchup at this point in the season, Jonathan Taylor deserves to be ranked this high. I don't care if you think that the Los Angeles Rams have the best run defense in the NFL, which is based upon metrics on a per game basis the case for fantasy football. They're the worst matchup for running back, and guess what? I do not care. Back-to-back weeks as the RB1, the offensive line in Indianapolis is incredible. Daniel Jones is playing at a very high level, and while I think eventually that stinker game out of Daniel Jones is coming, as of right now, you got to rock with the hot hand JT as a top 5 back. At number 5, we got Bijan Robinson going up against the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders at home in Atlanta this week. Not the best matchup for a running back, just like we talked about with our last running back, Jonathan Taylor. But again, when you are a running back with the pedigree of Christian McCaffrey, of Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, James Cook, Bijan Robinson, the matchup doesn't play much into the equation, despite the fact that the Atlanta Falcons got their whole world switched upside down like the Fresh Prince of fucking Bel-Air. Bijan Robinson was still able to finish as the RB13 last week, despite the team not scoring a singular point. So Bijan Robinson, another one of these must-start guys every week. Basically, everyone inside of this high-end tier 1 are going to be starts every single week. High-end top 12 guys. The only guy that we have been a little bit more nervous about in this tier recently has been Omarion Hampton, who we're to talk about in a couple of minutes, but he had his coming out party last week, so we're feeling real nicey about him. Next up, we got Devon 2 Chains of the Miami Dolphins going up against the New York Jumbo Jets at home in the 305 Dale. Now, with Tua Tagovailoa, Devon Achane is so involved in this offense that he could legitimately be the running back 1 in any given game. I understand that the Dolphins offense as a whole has been way below expectations. As a Dolphins fan, it is an absolute disgrace. Even if you aren't a fan of the Dolphins, you probably thought that this offense at least would operate better. Our defense is complete and utter dog shit, but the offense should be great. And even with the ups and downs of the offense, offense. A-Chain's been the RB10, the RB3, and the RB12 last week up against the Buffalo Bills. The Jets defense reeks of being fraudulent. They are an above average matchup for a running back. So based upon this game here, again, where A-Chain, if he saw 8+ targets in this game, no one's going to be surprised. 4 targets in week 1, 10 targets in week 2, and 9 targets last week. I love A-Chan in this spot up against the Jets. At number 7, we have Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles, formed an Eiffel Tower over the Baltimore Ravens defense. They were smashing them all game long. Jahmyr Gibbs was the RB3. David Montgomery was the RB2. Jahmyr Gibbs had 22 carries for 67 yards, 5 receptions on 6 targets for 32 yards and 2 touchdowns, 3 total touchdowns on the season. Every single game inside of the top 13. The Detroit Lions offense definitely improved heavily from week 1 on up against the Packers. The Packers had this offense looking a little bit limp dick. Now they have been incredible ever since. The Cleveland Browns run defense is very good, and I will give them the credit for doing so. And David Montgomery did look great last week, but ultimately the team still wants Jahmyr Gibbs to be the guy. They don't want it to be as much like last year where Jahmyr Gibbs is chilling on ice like a nice bottle of champagne for the first few drives, and then, you know, in that time, David Montgomery's getting a lot of work. They don't want to do that anymore. So Jahmyr Gibbs, solid pass catching running back as well. One of the better ones in the NFL. Very safe floor weekly. At number 8, we've got Omarion Hampton. Chris Breeze going up against the New York Football Giants in MetLife. First 2 games for Hampton were tough sledding, RB32 and the RB53, but he got his lick back up against the Denver Broncos last week at home in SoFi as the running back number 4. Najee Harris sadly out for the season. Najee Harris has run incredibly unlucky through the last couple of months. Obviously that eye incident on 4th of July, and now he gets hurt out for the season. I hope Najee ends up being okay, but he's not going to be back this season, and that obviously gives a huge boost up to Omarion Hampton, because there was a solid chance that with the play of Omarion Hampton through the first 2 weeks that they end up ceding more touches to Najee Harris, but now that isn't even a possibility. The Giants defense is definitely lacking. I thought the Giants defense would be a little bit better than they are this season. They are the team that allows the 4th most points to the running back position. So with Hampton playing red hot last week, I'm going to hop onto the Hampton train, even though I was a conductor of the Omarion Hampton Express all throughout the summer. At number 9, we got Derrick Henry. Now, a lot of people are worried about Derrick Henry. Nick, why does Derrick Henry keep fumbling the ball? Nick, what the fuck is wrong with Derrick Henry? Nick, how could Derrick Henry go from the RB1 to the RB62 and then the RB25? Nick, should I trade Derrick Henry for a half-eaten bag of Lay's chips? The answer would be no, you cannot panic. No, you should not worry, and everything is going to be fine. Now, entering into this year, I really thought that the Kansas City Chiefs would be a very, very, very tough test for running backs this season. In reality, as we are 3 games into the season, entering into our 4th week, they seem more like a middle-of-the-road matchup for RBs. So while Derrick Henry has disappointed in back-to-back weeks, you don't toss him to the side because of that. He is still a must-start running back 1. Moving now into the must-start RB2s, the high-end RB2s, we got Josh Jacobs, Jordan, the numbers Mason, what do they mean? Kyron Williams, Bucky Irving, Kenneth Walker, and J.K. Dobbins. Josh Jacobs is currently questionable, limited participant with the ankle. He's managing a minor ankle issue, so there really doesn't appear to be anything to worry about. The Dallas Cowboys defense is getting absolutely banged up week in and week out, taken out back, go 10 to the Rabbits, and shot in the back of the head. Shout out to Lenny from Of Mice and Men. Josh Jacobs has not been the best this season, and we got to be honest about it. Through the first 3 games, he has yet to finish inside the top 12, but he also has been reliable. 14 PPR points, and then 12 PPR points last week. With the Dallas Cowboys team not looking the best, with the Dallas Cowboys defensively not looking the best, I get they've been solid up against the run, middle of the road, but Josh Jacobs is bound to have that big game soon, and I expect the Packers to make it rain points after they got absolutely embarrassed up against the Browns in Cleveland last week. Next up, we got Jordan Mason going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is technically at Pittsburgh, but in reality, it is in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland. Shout out to Mystic Mac. Now, this is a game that is gross to have to wake up at 9:30 a.m. to watch, especially if you are on the West Coast and you have to wake up at 6:30 a.m. to watch Carson Wentz versus Aaron Rodgers in the year 2025. Now, the Steelers matchup is very good for running backs. Jordan Mason is the clear bell cow back now without Aaron Jones. So with him being the RB7 last week, rushing for 116 yards on 16 carries, as well as 2 touchdowns, I'm not too sure if Carson Wentz is going to be as reliable going forward, but Jordan Mason put the right foot forward last week as the RB1, so I feel good about him here. Next up, we got Kyren Williams. Now, there was a lot of people trying to tell me in the summer that Kyren Williams possibly can't keep up scoring 1 million touchdowns. Even though they gave the man $33 million in the summer, he can't possibly keep doing this. They're going to hand the rock more to Blake Corum, or they're going to hand the ball off more to the other backup running back on the team, Jarquez Hunter, I think his name was. I almost called him Jaquiz Rogers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers legend, but Kyren Williams has been fine. Week 1, not the best RB19, then he's the RB30. Last week, RB9 up against the Eagles in a matchup that I thought would be a tough task for him. The Indianapolis Colts matchup is more middle of the road, but when you are on a team that can score as many points as Matthew Stafford and the Rams can when you are in a game that is expected to be one of the highest scoring matchups of the week, you have to feel very confident about Kyren, and I'm not going to panic after week 2 like a lot of people did. Oh my gosh, he didn't score a touchdown. Blake Corum did. Guess what he does in week number 3? He finds the end zone. That's what Kyren Williams does. At number 13, we got Bucky Irving going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I love Bucky Irving. I am a Bucky Irving truther. This guy looked incredible, impeccable last year, and they're giving him even more of the workload this season, kind of pushing away Rashad with 2A's White. But the problem here for Bucky Irving is the offensive line is beaten to shit, and Mike Evans is out, so the offense won't be moving as swimmingly. Does that mean that Bucky Irving is now useless? He is irrelevant? Fuck no, baby. But obviously, his ceiling is a little capped by the offense and the offensive line, right? If the offensive line isn't very good, you're going to see a lot of times where the ball gets snapped, it's handed to Bucky, and there's 4 dudes surrounding him like he is the president and they're the Secret Service, except for they're the other team trying to hit him. So Bucky Irving, while I do love the player, I do love the talent, and while Bucky Irving's another one of these guys where kind of regardless of the matchup, you're not going to panic, this is a below average matchup for a running back with a shit tier offensive line, so I don't want to bury him too hard because he was able to rise up from that up against the Jets as the RB15 last week, but I think his ability to become like that top 5 league-winning running back just really isn't in the cards as of right now. Next up, we got Kenneth Walker. Speaking of the Cards, they're going up against the Cardinals tonight on Thursday Night Football in Arizona. Zach Charbonnet is expected to play today. We will see what kind of a role he plays. Based upon 2 top 10 finishes in a row, though, you would think they try to push more into Kenneth Walker being the guy. Now, maybe Kenneth Walker will never be a bell cow this season, but I do believe they're going to be giving him the ball more than Zach Charbonnet, especially since he is coming off of an injury. And again, Kenneth Walker has looked so great in back-to-back weeks, 3 total touchdowns over the last 2 games. He scored 2 last week up against the Saints on his path to becoming the RB number 10. There is definitely risk. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Kenneth Walker III is the safest option this week, because there is questions with the amount of snaps and touches he should receive. But ultimately, based upon what we've seen over the last 2 weeks, I can't rank him lower than this. Next up, we got J.K. Dobbins of the Denver Broncos going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at home in Denver on the second Monday Night Football game. RB 14, 16, and 14 over the last 3 weeks. 3 touchdowns, 1 in each and every single game. Now, look, I get a lot of people like RJ Harvey, and RJ Harvey's time to shine will eventually come, right? We all know J.K. Dobbins is not the poster boy of being a super healthy player. Knock on wood, we're not room for injuries. I need J.K. Dobbins to stay healthy for my super flex team to play good, but J.K. Dobbins has, at this point, earned his spot inside of the top 16. He's earned his spot to be considered a high-end running back 2 weekly because because while they have RJ Harvey, they are giving so many touches to J.K. Dobbins. The Cincinnati Bengals defense is absolutely a disgrace to the game that we love called football. So J.K. Dobbins should be able to have yet another solid showing as a high-end running back too. The next tier here is going to be Travis Etienne, Chuba Hubbard, and Ashton Jeanty as the mid-range running back twos. Before we break down these guys in depth as well as the rest of the running backs in today's rankings video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you'll receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you are a new user and you sign up using promo code Notorious. All of these things are for new users. If you play $5 in the pick'em, you'll receive $50 in bonus funds. How the pick'em works is incredibly simple. You pick at least 2 players. They're higher or they're lower. If those picks hit, you get paid. The more picks that you put in, the higher the payout will be. So make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, Travis Etienne, his point total has dipped every week of the season. He comes out the gate on fire like a bat out of hell as the running back 6. He follows that up as the RB14. Last week, the RB21. Can you do something for me? In a tough test up against the Houston Texans. Now, he gets the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. And in my opinion, this feels like the bounce back game for him. Now, I don't think at this point we can rank him higher than this because for one, the matchup isn't the most ideal. And for two, Travis Etienne's offense, Trevor Lawrence, you don't really trust him, but Etienne is still the clear RB1 on this team. And hopefully they are able to figure things out. So I feel pretty good about him as my RB2 in the mid-range. If I wanted to rank him higher, though, I think that would be a little bit egregious based upon kind of just how the offense has looked all season long. Next up, we got Chuba Hubbard. Now, a lot of people want to bury Chuba down the rankings because he shit the bed last week up against the Falcons. What I will say, though, is that's a very weird game script, right? You're beating the shit out of the Atlanta Falcons. They don't score a single point, and then we see more Rico Dowdle. I don't think we're going to be seeing as much Rico Dowdle this week. Now, in terms of the matchup up against the New England Deflatriots, this is one that is slightly above average, right? They allow the 15th most points to the running back position, so this is a fine game for Chuba Hubbard. Do I trust the Panthers offense? Of course not. Would I take out a fucking second mortgage on the house and bet it on the Panthers winning this game? Of course not. But Chuba Hubbard has a nose for the end zone. Chuba Hubbard just always ends up somehow scoring, even if the game doesn't go his way, which was the case in weeks 1 and week 2. They peeled back the snaps last week because of the fact that they were beating down on the Falcons so hard, and he finishes as their RB28. I'm not panicking after one down game. We got Chuba here. At number 18, we got Ashton Jeanty going up against the Chicago Bears. And at some point, we kind of just have to keep dripping him down the rankings. He starts off as a top 12 guy, shits the bed against the Patriots. Sure, he scores a touchdown. He's the RB24, then the RB37, then the RB42 last week up against the Washington Commanders in Washington. Now, you can blame Ashton Jeanty all you want. You could be like, Nick, Ashton Jeanty isn't made for the NFL. Nick, Ashton Jeanty isn't playing well because of the fact that he's not going up against these bums like he played at Boise State, and he's never going to work out in the NFL. But frankly, I don't really believe 100% in that agenda. So I think I just said he's playing the Commanders. He's actually going up against the Chicago Bears. I don't know why the fuck I said that, but it's because he played the Commanders last week, so I do apologize. The Chicago Bears are a top 6 matchup at the running back position, so I feel good about Jeanty here. The problem is not him. It's me. It's the offensive line, right? The offensive line is an absolute disaster. Ashton Jeanty, basically all of his yards are coming after contact. So while I do believe brighter days are ahead, this is really the apex of where we can rank him at this point in the season. Moving next on into the 4th tier here, the low-end RB2s with Trey Benson, Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, Jaylen Warren, as well as Alvin Kamara. Now, Trey Benson fills in for James Conner after James Conner suffered a season-ending injury last week against the 49ers, obviously terrible. James Conner seems like such a nice guy. He's been through a lot in his life, and he is just a reliable asset, so it does hurt a lot that he ends up getting hurt. Trey Benson, though, a very similar caliber player, in my opinion, as James Conner. I think that's the reason why a lot of people drafted him. If something happens to James Conner, you feel 100% confident filling in with Trey Benson in that void. Now, the Seattle Seahawks defense has been significantly better as a whole than I think anyone could have expected. I think going into this year, no one that I at least listened to was given the gawk 9,000 to the Seahawks defense. They do allow the 13th most points on a per game basis to running back, so I do like this spot for him. But deep down, I feel like Kyler's going to get picked off a couple of times, and there's just going to be some stupid shit that kind of hinders Trey Benson from hitting his peak as a top 12 guy. But in the running back 19 to 23 range, I feel good about him. At number 20, we got Breece Hall. Now, the Dolphins' defense against the run sucks donkey dick. I understand that the metrics don't actually say that. If you look at the fantasy points allowed per game to the running back position, actually, it's the tight ends that it says that we're great against. We're great against the tight ends. Against running backs, they're absolutely atrocious. 5th in most points allowed on a per game basis. If I didn't look at the metrics, which I have up on my screen that I read off to you guys, I would have said that they're the worst team up against the run. I am telling you that you, the viewer of today's video, the beautiful person that you are, if you go out there and you suit it up against the Miami Dolphins, I promise you, you would put multiple guys directly into the dirt. The Dolphins defense is a disaster up against the run. So while there's a lot of worries, ultimately deep down in my loins about Breece Hall, this reeks of a bounce back game. Next up, we got Javonte Williams going up against the Packers. Now, losing CeeDee Lamb sucks. Terrible. Really bad. Going up against the Green Bay Packers is a really tough matchup for running backs. Now, we did just see Quinshon Judkins actually overcome that and have a good game, but frankly, do we really trust Javonte without CD in a game that could get out of hand? Because again, the Dallas Cowboys defense is terrible. So yeah, there are concerns, there are worries, but Javonte has been a top 20 running back every single week, top 5 running back in 2 of 3 games. So while my confidence level is dwindling, he still belongs ranked as a top 24 guy. Next up, we got Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Vikings in that game in Ireland. 3 straight games as a top 20 running back. Is Jaylen Warren going to end up being a league winner for you? Probably not, right? I don't think he really has the upside in the offense that looks the way that they do to actually eclipse like a top 5 finish at the running back position. But he's going to be a reliable running back 2 for you. Again, Jaylen Warren is not a week winner. He is not a league winner, but he's going to be reliable enough for you, for most of you guys to be in your lineup a majority of the weeks. At number 23, we got Alvin Kamara going up against the Buffalo Bills over in Buffalo. Devon Achane looked good up against the Buffalo Bills last week. You know who didn't look good last week? Alvin Kamara, honoring his own jersey number, finishing as the running back 41. And I used that joke in the running back start sit video, so I do apologize, but I thought it was funny. So I figured I'd say it again. Why have it once when you can have it twice? So Alvin Kamara, first 2 weeks, running back 21, running back 15. Last week, disaster. They get their backs blown out by the Seattle Seahawks, an absolute railing of large proportions. Now they go up against the Bills. I think Kamara's just going to be fine, but my worries about the offense just getting absolutely piped up in this game could be that if, you know, the Bills are up by 1 million, there are not going to be a lot of running opportunities. It's just bad. Like, it's just really bad in New Orleans. But again, Kamara is kind of just going to be a top 24 running back every week just by the amount of targets he sees. So you don't feel the best right now. You definitely don't feel amazing, but you still continue to play him. Moving now on into tier number 5 with the high-end running back number 3s. Now, this is kind of where I draw my line of these guys you feel are startable, right? Once you get past tier number 5 and you get into 6, 7, or tier number 8, you start to be like, holy shit, I can't believe I have to start these guys. Quinshon Judkins going up against the Detroit Lions. Last week, we saw Derrick Henry, absolutely struggle. Absolutely be on the struggle bus up against that Detroit Lions defense. Quinshon Judkins overcame a terrible matchup up against the Packers, finding the end zone, 18 carries for 94 yards as the RB number 11. Do I trust the Browns offense? No, but Quinshon Judkins looks really good that he might be able to overcome what is a complete and utter disaster. At number 5, we got 25. We got Travion Henderson going up against the Carolina Panthers. Definitely a fine matchup for him. Now, Travion Henderson, based upon ADP, has been nothing short of a bust based on where you drafted him. It's been bad. They've been using way too much Ramondre Stevenson, who just can't hold on to the football to save his life. Even when Ramondre has a big game against the Dolphins where he looks like he switched bodies with fucking prime Barry Sanders, then the next game he's terrible up against the Steelers. And I told everyone this, that Ramondre Stevenson, just because you have a great game up against the Dolphins defense, doesn't automatically crown you as a must-start running back every single week. Travion Henderson, now due to the fumbles of Gibson, now due to the fumbles of Ramondre, should be able to trickle up this offense in terms of touches, and we saw that last week. Hopefully that can continue, but until we actually see it for a multiple game sample size, I don't think I can bump him up higher, even though I think Travion Henderson might be a certified smash this week up against the Carolina Panthers. Next up, we got David Montgomery, who absolutely butt-fucked the Detroit Lions defense last week as the Baltimore Ravens defense last week as the RB number 2. 12 carries for, you guessed it, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. So David Montgomery has 3 total touchdowns on the year. He's averaging 6.9 yards per carry. Again, they want Gibbs to be the guy. Monty isn't catching as many passes as in prior years, so he's going to be like a low-end RB2 to high-end running back 3 most weeks, but the Lions are so good that he could easily finish as a top 5 guy any given week. Shout out to the Burgers. But the problem here is the matchup is pretty bad up against the Browns, so I'm not going to rank him higher than this, but if you have him, you feel fine about it. Next up, we got I'm a scat man, bop, billy, pop, 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 billy, pop, Cam Scataboo going up against the LA Superchargers at home in MetLife, RB5 last week, but I want to pump the brakes on Cam Scataboo. Sure, Tyrone Tracy's going to miss some time, and sure, that elevates Cam Scataboo to be the RB1, Devin Singletary now the running back number 2, but it is important to understand that just because he was the RB5 last week up against the Chiefs doesn't mean that he's going to be balls deep in the Chargers, who allow the 4th least amount of points to the running back position on a per-game basis. I understand that Russell Wilson was terrible last week and Cam Scataboo still played well, but Jackson Dart, his first ever start up against a defense like the Chargers, might be even worse. So while I do think Scataboo's a talented player, while I think he's incredibly fun to watch just due to how he loves to initiate contact instantly, the ball snapped and he's instantly running headfirst into a defender, it's very fun to watch. You gotta really temper your expectations. At number 28, we got DeAndre Swift. Now, I talked about this in the running back start sit video, and I've talked about it a million times this year. DeAndre Swift going up against the Raiders. This is just a guy that every single week you never want to actually start, but you're never mad that you did because he finishes as like the RB28 to running back number 20. Now, the Bears offense has been looking better, and maybe that does mean that DeAndre Swift's going to score more fantasy points. But he's also been banged up. He's dealing with a hip injury as of right now and was limited again in practice on Thursday. So while DeAndre Swift is on an offense that could go back and forth with the Raiders, and maybe not even back and forth, maybe just a certified beat-down brother of the Las Vegas Raiders defense, DeAndre Swift, frankly, just isn't good enough to even take advantage regardless of how good or bad a matchup is. He just always finishes in this range. So you're never going to be excited that you started him, and you're never going to be mad that you started him because he's just going to be fine enough to where as long as your other players do their job, you can win with him in your lineup. Now we move into the range where it starts to get concerning with the mid-range running back number 3s with Tony Pollard going up against the Texans. I don't like that matchup. And Chase Brown going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. I don't like that matchup. Chase Brown, actually, we'll talk about Tony Pollard first, right? Because he's ranked higher. Now, I don't like the spot up against the Houston Texans just due to the fact that while the Houston Texans as a whole have been a disaster this season, their defense is pretty good. Now, the stats will tell you that they allow the 8th most points to running backs on a per-game basis, and Tony Pollard is the workhorse running back. But if the offense falls behind in a big way here, which is possible because CJ Stroud could eventually turn back the clock and light things up, it just doesn't feel great having Pollard. His best game of the season was last week. So as a Tony Pollard guy, I hope he builds on that. But ultimately, like, I just don't think you can feel super great about this offense, especially with Cam Ward banged up and potentially not playing. At number 30 is Chase Brown. Now, at this point, I don't want to start Chase Brown. Now, I get, Nick, it's, you know, things will get better. Jake Browning will figure it out. Brian Flores was just in Jake Browning's head. He'll figure it out up against the Broncos. Well, that would be a fine analysis of, hey, Jake Brown will figure it out. If they were playing up against the fucking Dolphins defense, if they were playing up against, you know, the Patriots, you know, some defense that I don't think is all that good, the Chicago Bears, the Dallas Cowboys, I'd be like, hip, hip, hooray, fire up Chase Brown. But due to the fact that they're going up against the Denver Broncos, a defense that could have Jake Browning incredibly confused, I don't like Chase Brown one bit. No games this season inside the top 20. Disaster. Next tier here, tier number 7, is the low-end RB3s, and then we'll get into the YOLO running back tier, where you're basically just throwing everything in the kitchen sink out there and hoping it works. 9-inch Nicholas Chubb going up against the Titans. It seems like they want to use Woody Marks more. Seems like Chubb will still get the touch on the goal line if they get there to score the touchdown. So he's ranked here. JCM, I want to rank him higher. Bill Nye, the running back guy of the Commanders, going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. Back at practice, dealing with a knee injury on Thursday. The offense just doesn't seem like they want to put all in, push all in, all the chips to the center of the table on Bill just yet. Maybe that will happen in short order, but with this being potentially a triple-headed running back by committee, again, once you're down here, you don't really want to be starting him. Now into the YOLO tier. Ramondre, Byshal Tootin, Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, Zach Charbonnet, Woody Marks, and Rashad with 2 A's White. Ramondre, fumbleitis. Ramondre belongs in the doghouse. He belongs to the streets. But ultimately, Josh McDaniels is too fucking stupid to do that. So he'll get just enough carries to, you know, if you had to play him, he scores like 7 points and you're like, it could have been worse. Then we got Byshal Tootin. I like Tootin a lot, but the team still really wants ETN to be the guy. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Plus, the Jaguars offense is not trustworthy at all. Touchdown in back-to-back weeks, so there's worse options than him, but obviously you're not feeling great about it. Next up, we got Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. Both these guys should see a similar amount of touches. Pacheco will outsnap him, but Kareem Hunt's been getting used closer to the goal line, third down scenarios. So Hunt probably will outscore him, but neither of these guys really seem very worth it to actually have to start them. Then we got Zach Charbonnet going up against the Cardinals in Arizona. Week 1 finds the end zone, looks fine. Week 2, 15 carries for 10 yards. Then he's hurt with the foot injury. He had to go see a foot specialist. He went to Rex Ryan, the foot specialist, the number 1 foot specialist in America. Now he's expected to play on Thursday. We'll see what his workload looks like. But again, it seems like they use him enough to where he could magically score. Then we got Woody Marks going up against the Titans. Woody Marks, I thought, looked good up against the Jaguars. But again, until they really push more away from Chubb and push more into him, or maybe take out Woody Marks and go more with Chubb, it just seems like a scenario you don't want to be involved in. Final guy is going to be Rashad White. Doesn't get anywhere near the amount of touches he used to get. They want to go all in with Bucky Irving on the snaps, but we did see Rashad score in week 2, so it is plausible that he could do that again. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, like it owes some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help you out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you a long time. Have a great one. As always, good boy.